Becoming a medically complex parent introduces you to things you never thought you would have to learn. You're overwhelmed by them. It simply introduces a whole new world. In that world are things like alarms, sensors, probes, wires, O2 cans, O2 concentrators, cannulas. The list can go on and on. As you grow with your child, you're going to learn all of these new and different things. In this video, I want to talk to you about pulse oximeters, how to wrap a pulse ox probe around a very squirmy toddler. Do you put it on the toe? Do you put it on the foot? How often do you change them, and more? These are things that in the hospital, it's just so automatic that you don't even think about it. And then when you get home, it can be overwhelming. And especially when you're in fight or flight mode, or you're being triggered by a beep, it can be very difficult to work with these things. How do you read the pulse oximeter? What is it telling you about your child? Of course, my child is different than your child. But what I can do is I can show you how to just read the lines on the pulse oximeter. What do the different colors mean? How do you change the heart rate so that it alarms when the heart rate goes under 90, or when the O2 goes above a certain amount or below a certain amount? How do you work these machines so that you can be prepared this first or second day when you go home and you don't have to freak out as much? I hope this video helps, and remember, if you enjoy my videos, please subscribe, and always don't be afraid to be Dr. Mom. These are the items that we personally use when we're connecting Paige, our 3-year-old medically complex toddler, to the pulse oximeter. These are 2 different brands of pulse oximeter probes. So you want to make sure, this is Nellcor and this is Covidien. How you're going to know if these work, sometimes you just have to try. One big hint is that this looks like it plugs in, it's shorter, it doesn't have a wire, and it's a different brand name. This, hint, hint, goes with our travel pulse oximeter. This one is a primary one. You're going to see this in hospitals. And this adapter right here, this is going to connect into the adapter that's connected to the pulse oximeter that's typically stationary by your child's bed. Coben tape is something they use in hospitals all the time, and we also use it every single time we put a pulse ox on Paige. What this does is it secures this. So you're going to wrap this around the patient's foot, and then we get a little strip of this. I'll show you how to do it in a minute. And you wrap it around this so that it prevents it from getting caught on something, of ripping off easier. And honestly, it just promotes easier accuracy on the pulse oximeter. This is called a posy. This is something that we found at a hospital when we went to it, and it does very similar to this. It's like a holder for the pulse oximeter. So it keeps the pulse ox probe in the position that you want it to. It does double duty to keep the pulse ox probe in place. So those are just some of the supplies you might need. This Coben tape sometimes is not covered by insurance. We have never found an insurance or DME company that provides these posies. So these we get on Amazon, like $50 for a few dollars. This one also is pretty inexpensive on Amazon. You can even get little colors if you're feeling creative. In this video, I want to show you how to put on a pulse ox probe. I am actually putting on the pulse ox probe to my daughter for her to go to sleep tonight. So you're going to see moving legs, you're going to hear her giggle and talk, but I want you to get the real picture, because very often our child is not sedated, they're not in the hospital, and it can be quite difficult to do this. So the first thing you want to do is you want to rip off some Coben tape. You do about this much, like this. And the key to doing this is you kind of put your fingernail there, give it pressure, and then yank. I know it sounds funny, but I had to learn how to do that. It's more difficult than you think. Okay, couple ways you do this. So at the hospital, a lot of times they will put this around her big toe. So you always put this big dot, the actual sensor, on the bottom there. And then you wrap this so that what you're getting is this sensor is on top of that sensor. That is the goal. You can do the toe, but we've realized it just doesn't always read well because it's just difficult to wrap around. So what we do at home, what I'm about to do to get her ready for bed, is we put it like this, right there in the middle of her foot. Then the other sensor is on the side right here, which it works well. If it's not reading on your side accurately, then you may want to do the toe. But for us, it's okay. You take the Coben tape, and I hold this. I keep holding this so it doesn't come off because you're reusing these, right? So they get older and the stickiness wears off. That's why we use the Coben tape. You wrap the Coben tape on like that. Coben tape sticks on itself. Then we put the posy on. This is old, you know. We reuse as much as we can. Insurance doesn't cover posies or Coben tape. And then what we do is we put her sock on. One thing we do personally, our daughter's 3, so she can fit in an extra large sleep sack. So what we do is we tuck this guy through a zipper. So this has double zippers. So we tuck it through here so that she has less access, so she can't play with it as much, and it keeps the reading accurate. You want to like thread wires through whatever clothes you have so that the readings are accurate. I hope that helps. So now that we put the pulse ox probe on the patient's foot, we have this brand, Covidien. I feel like it's pretty popular. I think even if you don't have this brand, it's gonna work pretty similar. So I'm gonna hold the power button down, maybe 5 seconds. It'll power on, and it takes like 30 seconds for the whole thing to power on. So while it's powering on, I'm going to connect it to the patient. So as you can see, we have so many wires down here, but this one is always pretty close by. You could always hang it over the crib. You can make it accessible. So how you connect it is you're gonna find the sensor, which we rope bars through the swaddle. Okay, you see how this opens, okay? So you can't put it in like this. The reason is so that it doesn't pull out easily. You open this, see how it aligns? Boop. So if you try to do it the other way, it won't work. See, so if you do it this way, it's not gonna go through. You have to align it. Okay. You always kind of want to make sure the white part is straight. Let me go over here. These waves, the even waves, mean that this is a good reading. Also this right here, it's nothing sporadic. You don't see any big lines like that. I'm gonna have a short video after this to give you a little synopsis of how to read it. This is her oxygen. This is her heart rate. This is the high and low. So when it goes below 92, this is going to alarm. When the heart rate goes below 80, this is going to alarm. Now, my daughter, her heart rate can go down to 70, 75. She's 3 years old. When she's sleeping, she can do that easily. And so what we do is we edit the heart rate. So we use this little knob. And you only do this with your person's permission. So let's just do 65. So then it's not alarming when she's in a deep sleep. But you can also see home, and that gives you a bunch of things, but really that's just for doctors. You never have to really worry about that. Brightness, maybe you would worry about that. Alarm volume. So maybe you can't hear it and you need to change that. Okay, that's how you change it. Hit home again, and we are all set. As you can see, she just moved. So that's why that was sporadic right there. So in the middle of the night, this is gonna be alarming, and it's most likely because she's moving around just like that, okay? Always look at the patient first. Before you look at this, look at the patient. This is what a pulse oximeter looks like. So in the hospital, or if you're at home, if you're wondering what all these things mean, I'm going to lead you through it right now. On the left side, usually it's a blue number. This is oxygen. Typically you need to be between 90 and 100, right? If you're desatting, that means you're under 90 and falling rapidly. This is your heart rate. Your heart rate, it depends on what is the baseline that's normal for you. But for instance, Paige, this would be when she's sleeping. If it goes above 200, that's pretty bad. This is a wave pattern. If the wave pattern is like this, watch, you see that? Not accurate, okay? Now my numbers are a little bit better. But if I move, like at night when she's moving like that, you can't trust the pulse oximeter.